just got that issue. It's running pretty solid now, except for that. You can see it does have sound and all that. And if you control the gas, so that works. So it looks like our this board's fine now. Well, yeah. Why is this? I had that hooked up wrong somehow. That's supposed to be the test. I'm going to have to go back through the pinout and make sure I've got this thing wired correctly, because that's definitely not right. But yeah, because I want to be able to go into test. But our problem's on this board, and I'll start poking around on that board. I'm going to get the schematic out for the video board and start going over it. I'm going to look for the player circuitry, the car type stuff. And I'm also going to look at my pinout and make sure I got test wired correctly, because I'm pretty sure I don't. So I'm going to do that stuff and get my schematic ready, and I'll be back. Okay. Well, I spent some time with my harness, and I wired a shifter in right there. So now I can go through the shifting stuff, and I wired the correct. There's two service switches basically on this game. One of them, two switches I should say. One of them just gives you a credit. That's what I was wired up to. So I wired up to the actual test thing. Now I'm in test right now, and you can see it's RAM okay, ROM okay. And I can do my shift up to get my sounds. You just keep shifting up. And you got your pot for moving the accelerator. Yeah, so cool. Now all that there's a video board issue, and it's up here somewhere, because I've kind of, through just removing ROMs and looking what the screen looks like, I've discovered that this is the area where the car player type stuff and the animated cars that you pass and whatnot, that's kind of all up here, I think. Let me take it out of test. That's the first thing I want to fix, is the car. Then there's an issue where this thing doesn't want to switch screens. I don't know what's up with that. Well, we'll figure it out. That's not right. Pole position doesn't look right. Yeah, so there's little issues on this video board. See, it didn't switch over to the blue screen to do this. Okay, yeah. Alright, so now that I got my harness situated, I can start concentrating on this board and start looking at this board a bit. So I'll get the schematic out and figure out where to start poking around on this thing. Okay, started poking around on this. I got this part of the schematic out, and this is the picture memory, signs and cars. And I'm just kind of poking around. I started right here at this guy and it looked okay. And then I looked at this 86 and it looked okay. And then I got to this guy right here, which is 10B, the high side of 10B, which is 10B is right here. And if we, okay, pin 13 is pulled high. And it is. Okay. Clock is 11, so that's right. 8, 9, 10, 11. Let's look at the data pin on 12. There's your data line on 12. And then if we look over here, our clock is V set on pin 11. We come back over here to pin 11. We have a floating line. Now, if you look right here, it looks like there's some damage right there. On that line. I don't know where VSET comes from. It might come from this chip here. I mean, is that VSET? I don't know. Anyway, that signal's missing right here, so I'm going to have to repair that. And we should have some improvement for sure. So let's do that. Okay, so I soldered a little wire across there. And our car is now correct. Well, that's good. There is still an issue. See that? Yeah, it's like, what is that? This looks good right here. Okay, yeah. It's weird because I can like see the cars in the background on this screen. Something isn't working right. It's almost like it's a mux or something. 'Cause it should be switching between data or something, switching between something, and it's kind of hung up halfway, half-ass. It's like this screen right here See, I don't know if you can see this in the, you can see like moving around the car. I can see the car. I can see the outline of the car. I'm not sure if you can see that, but I can see it on in real time. It's like a muxing issue where this is not switching back and forth. So with that in mind, I'm going to look at the schematic again and see where I might find that problem. Okay, I'm poking around this part of the schematic, and it's the color memory output, and you know, the RGB output. And right here you have a couple of muxes, and this is where things are switching between what to display on the screen. And I'm looking at this control signal to these two guys, and I don't like the way this chip looks. 9B, this one right here. If we come in and look at our outputs, you can see how messy that is. And the other output looks fine. But this one over here is just messy. I don't like this at all. So what I want to do is I want to analyze 9B and take a closer look at it. So let's do that. Okay. We're going to do straight up analysis of waveforms. It's a 4 input, 1 output. Okay. Here's our output. Alright, so let's go to Analyzer and okay, I'll move you up here. We'll take a look at the scope. Let's try to get a better view here, a little bit better anyway. Okay. So go ahead and oops. Alright, this is a 20, which is a not and. So they all have to be 1s and you're able to get a 0. Let's do this. Let's just trigger on that being 0. Right. See, it's triggering on that being 0, but it shouldn't be 0 here at all. There shouldn't be no zeros there. Alright, here's what I want to do. Here's what I want to do. I want to go back to the format, and I'm going to turn that off, turn that off, turn that off, modify in. That's going to be my 4-bit input and my out. Right? Overlay my input out. I'm going to clear the trigger. That hurt my arms. Alright, we're going to trigger on F. And technically, I guess it's working. There's F. It's 10 nanoseconds. And technically, this thing is working. So, how come? There, see, there's a nice big pulse. I mean, it is working, so I don't like how noisy it is, but it is working, so I'm going to move on. All right. Let's move on. Okay, my next thing I'm going to look at are these two muxes right here, these 157s. I'm going to actually analyze those carefully, because what I'm thinking is everything is correct. The blue screen with the number, the high score is correct. The gameplay screen with the road and the car is correct. And the main screen with pole position, that's all correct. But it's when it's being selected to display whatever it's supposed to display is, I believe, where it's getting hung up. And I think all of these signals right here are those signals of each display, and they're supposed to be selected through these muxes is what I'm thinking, and then sent off to the color proms. So I think the problem's right in here. So this is where I'm going to concentrate. I'm going to look at, I don't like this chip, that 20. I think I might replace that just to clean that up, because when I do jump it, it does clean it up a little bit. But I think I will replace that, and I want to analyze these 157s next. That's my next step, is analyzing those 157s. So we'll do that and see what they look like. Alright guys, I'm still at it. We got blue screen over here. Just doing some testing. I've been doing testing and I've been doing research all day, trying to learn how this system really works. And this CPU is called, it's called the Sound CPU. They call it the Sound microprocessor. This thing is not the Sound microprocessor. It may also work with the sound. That is the main processor of this system. It's dumping information over here and over here. This thing talks to these three chips directly. And then it talks to the rest of the board through this guy, this custom. Now, I'm sure this custom is good. I actually swapped in a different one and I'm getting the same issue. I can't reliably talk to this stuff over here. See, I keep getting data errors and whatnot. I'll just try repeating this. See? I'm getting data errors. I'm trying to talk to these RAM up here, these 2114s. This bank of 4 2114s right here. I can only talk to those two with this CPU. This CPU talks to these two chips right here, and it talks to these four guys. That's why sometimes if I reset this, I'm going to run it. Okay, it's running right now, and now it's booting. Yeah, see? Sometimes when I restart it, you'll see RAM 0, RAM 1, stuff like that for errors. I'm going to try rebooting it here. Here we go. See, RAM 2, RAM 0, RAM 2, RAM 0. And if you're lucky, you might see RAM 48 or RAM 51. That is that CPU trying to talk to these guys. See, these 2114s, here's RAM 0, here's RAM 2, and then you got 1 and 3. That CPU talks to these guys. These four chips. That's why you're seeing that error. This thing cannot communicate with this solidly. That's why it's doing this. So what I want to do is I've kind of done some process of elimination by I actually have a pole position board set right over there. And I don't even know if that the CPU board's missing parts. But the video board is complete. and I plugged that video board in, and it does have errors. That video board's got issues. But what I did notice is I get this same stuff in that board, with that board. So that told me that the problem wasn't the video board, it was this board. I was getting the exact same thing, how that bleeds through like that, how it looks like that. Same symptoms. So yeah, I was getting this same junk like this on that other video board, even though there were other problems on top of that. And now, since I put the fluke on it and I'm doing some fluke testing, I'm finding that I cannot talk to this stuff reliably. So, and from a previous repair on a pole position, I made notes here. So I have notes of what is what, as far as, and you should be able to do your checks on these and it should not fail. So, and I made a new note here that SD0 through SD7, that's these guys right here off of this 08 custom. This right here goes through here and over to this board. And it does not say that anywhere in these schematics. I had to actually beep it out. I beeped out pin 53 off of this guy because that's where that's where data bit 0 comes through. These things are 16-bit processors. They have 16 data lines, and I think they have like 14 address lines or something like that, and 16 data bits. So these are sub CPUs working this stuff over here. It's taking, these things are taking what this thing is giving them and working, doing whatever it does with it. But this is not getting the right data over to here, and you're getting this junk. This is a pretty complex system. So I've been actually just doing some studying and trying to figure out how it works. And I found this problem where, because I was like, from looking at the schematic, it did not look like this CPU talks over here at all, because it doesn't say that these signals go over to the video board, but they do. It's after it's driven through this chip, it comes over to this board. Now these three chips right here, this CPU talks directly to those guys, no buffering. So you can do RAM long and stuff all day long on this chip right here and it'll pass every time. But the minute you try to get through this guy to the rest of the board, you get issues. So I'm going to look at control to this and find out what is going on here. Yeah, we got an enable right here. We have this signal right here that comes off of this 7C PAL. So I might end up removing that PAL chip. But I got to find out why this is funky. And I could also look into these guys. I could look into the data, or the addressing might be flaky, because this is, remember, I can get these ROMs in the RAM perfect, but that's before anything's buffered or driven. Once these bits right here, once they're driven out, I mean, it could be something flaky with that, you know, because I know these address bits, address bit 1 through address bit 14 goes straight over to here after they're buffered through these chips. So kind of trial and error. It's just a process It's a long process to go through and figure out what's going on with this and just tracking everything down. It's been a whole day of learning basically on this, but I feel like I've accomplished a lot. I feel like I've learned a lot about this system today, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and continue plugging away, and I'll be back. Okay, I think I have a pretty good plan of attack. I made my notes based on what I know, and what I know is I have a video board here where I have the same symptoms if I put another video board on it. So that kind of tells me the problem's over here. I know with the Fluke, I have a hard time. It's hit or miss talking to the RAM over here, and it shouldn't be. Knowing that, I looked at the schematic and I came up with these notes. The 2114 are both enabled by signals, this signal and that signal. Those are the RAMs associated with that. Those are the RAMs associated with that signal. Okay. This is a common pin, buffered read-write on pin 1. That's the direction on the 245s. So we have these two signals are the enable, and then you have the direction right here. Not on the RAMs themselves, but on the 245 driving the data back to that CPU. 6116 RAM, these four guys right here, those are enabled by these upper address bits along with this signal. Okay, these 4 bits along with this 5th bit address these 82123s to create all of these enable signals. Now these two signals from the CPU board, CKH and CKL, are ANDed on the video PCB and then ORed with read-write to create that signal. And this signal is the read-write for those RAMs. And read-write is ANDed with itself just as a buffer on the video PCB to create buffered read-write. Okay, pin 18 and 20 of the 6116s are enabled by the one signal from the 82123s. 4 chips, 4 enable lines off of those. The ones that we're concerned with are just the 3F and 3E, because that's the only ones we can talk to. And those are both enabled by one of those bipolars. So basically, yeah, these signals, CKH and this signal here, I don't know where that's derived from. I have to find out if that is made over here on this board or not. Anyway, those two signals are ANDed to create. If you look at the schematic, it makes sense. I just took some basic notes about how all of this is being done. And basically I boiled it down to this. I'm checking the address buffers on the CPU board, the upper address bits. I'm going to check this signal, and I'm going to check these two signals and the read-write signal. That's where I'm going to start looking, is those 4 areas on this board right here, the CPU board. So I'm going to get to that tomorrow. It's getting kind of late, so we'll see you back here tomorrow.